What's special about this place is that it is what the biologists call as a cypress gallery. And a gallery, I love the name of that because it really is the feeling of being in a very special place.
Where we are right now is in one of my very favorite places, really. There's a rock outcropping over here, and the roots of the cypress go in and out with the knees sticking up out of the water, and it's meditative and quiet and beautiful.
This Cibolo Creek up here is so sweet and gentle and such a mellow little creek. It feels so friendly and a great place for children to wade in. As it goes downstream, you wouldn't even recognize it. It goes past the fern bank and gets wide and deep, and then beyond that, it actually goes into the canyon land where it dramatically changes and becomes this turbulent river that has huge waterfalls and whirlpools. As it goes beyond that, it carves even deeper into the canyon. And on those bluffs of the canyon, you can see so many beautiful species that you would not see anywhere else. Some of them that we've identified down there were thought to be nearly extinct in the hill country. It's a really amazing lost world. But that's where the creek really starts to do its most dramatic recharge. That's where you'll see the cracks in the bottom of the river where the water literally goes underground to recharge the Edwards and Trinity aquifers. When we started the Nature Center, it was a group of friends with small kids realizing that there really was no place for that next generation to have to go play in nature.
The time that has so impressed me, being a social worker, working with children, is when I've brought children out here and watched them react. Whether they're children who grew up in rural settings or in the city and never had their feet in a natural body of water, they respond the same. I think it's universal. Children just want to jump in that water and celebrate and have fun. And the children I work with, some of whom are in psychiatric hospitals, come out here and they become children. And the behavior problems tend to disappear and they tend to act absolutely joyful. And that always has impressed me, that nature has that influence. I think sadly, the average industrial country society, where it's basically urban living, have children spending most of their time in front of screens and very little green time. And as a result, I think we have obesity problems, and I think we have cooperation problems, social skill problems. I think that having contact with nature, even if it's a pet, even if it's a small backyard, a small garden, or a small park you can go to, and just appreciate the songs of frogs, I think it helps settle us down. It hits a reset button in the brain, I think, or something.
An area like this is so sensitive that if, for example, a subdivision was built right on the edge of the creek, something as simple as the runoff from the yard, the pesticides in the yards would be coming into the creek.
This water here is what our entire community depends on. It goes underground downstream, feeds the aquifer, and all of San Antonio, million people down there, all of this area in the hill country depends on this water.
It's about educating the community and the region about the importance of the Cibolo Creek. It's about stewardship of the lands. It's about education of the public, of landowners that live upstream, that affect the water that comes through here. And it's about research.
Citizen scientists that come and, for example, do stream monitoring, and they test the water for water quality. And they've actually been able to discover where are the points of pollution that are happening upstream. We have monarch monitoring programs. Now, the beautiful monarch butterfly that is in such danger right now and has gone into deep declines when it travels down to Mexico, well, we have an entire group of people here who count the milkweed plants in certain areas. I mean, they count them. And then they turn over the little leaves and they count the little eggs that they find in there from the monarchs. And they feed this into a national database. And so international agreements can be made about what to do to protect the monarchs. Again, these are these citizen scientists, these wonderful folks who find such passion in getting the details.
I see one fledgling.
We study the birds and the great blue herons and the butterflies and try to understand how this habitat is doing. Is it healthy, and how do we keep it healthy? What management practices can we do to keep it healthier?
Really, it doesn't have to be rocket science, just do it smartly. Know your plan, make sure you're doing it safely.
If they're property owners, they can understand how to manage their prairies. And the way they can understand that is to take a look at the experiments we've done with our native prairie with doing prescribed burns. And by doing these burns, what we're doing is burning off the top of the plant, but the heart of the plant under the ground is not destroyed. And of course, native grasses grow much deeper in the ground than do exotics. And so what you do is get rid of the invasive species and the exotics with the burn, and the native grasses are so charged up when they come up in the spring, it's amazing. Another thing that has been an outgrowth of the Nature Center has been a land trust. So now we are actually able to help property owners who want to preserve their land and see it protected for perpetuity. They have a way of doing that by partnering with a land trust and using a thing called a conservation easement, which helps the landowner protect their property. So we've protected 20 square miles of the hill country with conservation easements.
We felt like protecting the farm was absolutely critical to protecting this. The farm is right there.
On the other side is a 60-acre historic farm, and it came available for development 10 years ago. And we panicked. Oh my gosh, what would happen if there was nothing but houses all across here? And when you're out in the prairie, you'd see this enormous housing development, all with its barking dogs and blasting televisions, and it would really destroy the sense of peacefulness that you get here right now. And we realized that we have to protect it. It took us 10 years and about $2.5 million, which we didn't have. But because when you go over there, there's a historic building where you see what the Germans who came here in the 1850s had to go through to settle the place. And then you look upon real farmland that is surrounded now by urban development.
I encourage everyone to come and look at the master plan. It is an awesome layout for this property, and you're going to see what our dreams are.
And by being able to purchase this place, we not only protect the Nature Center, but now we're creating farmers market, community gardens, where people can come and start learning how to grow their own food. I don't think you can be a complete nature center if you're not showing people their relationship to nature and how they can grow food. These kinds of projects grow organically, and it depends on what kind of partners we get. Because we don't have lots of money, but what we do have is lots of energy to make friends.
Yeah, if you've been involved in this project, either digging holes in the ground, John, or planting posts in those holes, Milan, etc., scraping the dirt, digging the trenches, building the beds, raise your hand, if you would.
we've found that the community is getting more conscious. A trail system has been developed throughout Bernie that was really at the initiative of the Nature Center. There are now 3 county parks on rivers that were created by an initiative of the people working at the Nature Center to create a bond election that the entire county voted for.
The Jan Reed March.
Books have come out of the Nature Center. Our education director, Jan Reed, has written all about local plants that people can find on their property so they make sure they don't destroy some valuable native shrub. She and the Parks and Wildlife representative are writing a book on managing your habitat for local birds. And we wrote a book on how to create and nurture a nature center in your community called the Nature Center book. And that book sold about 3,000 copies in North America. Then a man named Mikihiko Yamamoto found it in Vancouver, calls up and says, I'd like to translate the book into Japanese. So he does that and then shows the book to some folks in Beijing at the Beijing Normal University who said this should be in Chinese. And so we are preparing to travel now to China and Japan to talk to people who have translated our book and are working with our book with people in their communities to create nature centers. So what I like is that idea that you can take a rock and pitch it in the water, you know, and there's the ripple, and it happens. And to me, that's good stuff.
The Cibolo Nature Center felt like someone needed to pay attention to the importance of the Cibolo Creek. There's lots of rivers and streams in the country that get a lot of attention. No one was protecting the Cibolo Creek.
Oh man, that was a good one.
And we felt like it was our responsibility to bring awareness to the importance of this creek. But it is not something that the Nature Center can do alone. We need the support of everyone that cares about this creek to help us in any number of ways, whether it be financially, whether it be through building awareness with the political powers that be, but it is something that is much bigger than the Cibolo Nature Center. We need lots of help to make this a reality.